demo, we're going to go to the Interzoid website and click on APIs, and you can see a list of the available Interzoid APIs here. And the one we're looking for is the email validation API. This is the one that we're going to use within the Postgres database to validate email addresses and enrich those email addresses with additional information. So if I click on the email validation APIs, it takes me to the actual API page, shows some examples, and if I scroll down, I can see some endpoints and some different specifications, what kind of data comes out of it, and so forth. But we're not going to need any of that since we're going to be consuming the API within the Interzoid Cloud Data Connect product. And then one more thing we need to do in order to access the API during the demo, we need to come back to the home page or from anywhere and click on register. And this enables us to obtain our free license key for trial purposes, fill out your various information, and then when you confirm your email address, you'll be able to log in and get your API license key that we will need in order to run this demo. Okay, so if you don't have Postgres installed yet or want to upgrade your version, to do so, come here to the Postgres website and you can see the current versions at the time of this recording. All you need to do is click download and then scroll down and you can pick your version: Linux, Windows, Mac, Solaris, BSD, and you walk through the install process, which we won't do here, and you'll be ready to run this demo. Okay, here we are in pgadmin, the Postgres administration tool, and you can see our default database, Postgres, here. And so if I right click on that, what we're going to want to do is select the query tool. And then now here we're in the query editor, and I'm going to create a database that we're going to use for the demo. We're going to call it Interzoid, and then execute. Now we've created that database. Now it's not showing here under databases, so we're going to right click on servers and there's a refresh. And when I come back, we can now see the Interzoid database that I'm going to connect to. And I can begin to start using the Interzoid database that we have created. So the next thing that we want to do is clear the query editor so we can then create a table within our database and populate that with the data that we're going to use in our demo to demonstrate use of the API within Postgres. Okay, so to make it easy to populate a table with some test data, we've actually created that test data for you. If you go to interzoid.com/data, you can see some raw data of email addresses that we can use. But to make it even easier, we've actually created the SQL. So let's click in here, and then you can see that we're creating a table called emails with a column that we're going to use to store the sample email addresses that we will then enrich within Postgres. So we simply do a Control-A and then a Control-C to copy that data, and at which point we'll take it over to Postgres. Okay, and then now back in the Postgres administration tool, we have the query editor open, and I'm going to paste in that SQL data so you can see the create table in the insert statements, and then I'm going to execute this set of instructions. You can see it returned successfully. Okay, and then to make sure that it worked successfully, we can enter a select statement from the emails table that we just created and execute that. And you can see here, I'll widen this a little bit, that we have our data with our one column created that we are now ready to use to validate and append using the Interzoid Cloud Data Connect and the email validation API. So here we are at the website landing page for the Interzoid Cloud Data Connect product. And so we'll just scroll down until we get to the place where we can actually download the product. And we'll click on that. And then here on the download page, you can see the different versions: Windows, Linux, Apple, Mac OS, Darwin, and so forth that we can download. And then we also have the option to download the non-ODBC or the ODBC enabled version. Now in this particular case with Postgres, we're going to be using a native driver, so we do not need the ODBC version. However, if you think you will be using Interzoid Data Connect with the other databases that might require an ODBC connection, you can download this one, but it will work the same regardless for this particular demo. So let's go ahead and click on the Windows version and download that to our PC for this demo. Okay, once we've downloaded the Interzoid Data Connect product and have unzipped it in the directory of our choice, in this case IZDC because we're using it in Windows, we can go ahead and run our command that will pull data from our source table, call the API in batch-like format, and then populate the output table in Postgres. Now let's look at the actual command and walk through some of the parameters. Here the function name is validate email, and we'll explain in a moment why it makes sense to do this from the command line. But that function name tells us, or tells the product, which API to call. The target is a Postgres database. Here's our API license key that we received from the Interzoid website when we registered that allows us to access the API. And then DSN, here is the connection string, which enables us to access the database. And here we're running it from a local server. The table is the name of the table from which the source table that contains the email addresses reside. Here's the column name, and then we're going to generate SQL. We're going to create a new table, and there are some options like outputting to a CSV file and so forth that you can find in the documentation. And then of course we'll give the new table a name. We'll just call it emails out. Go ahead and run that by clicking enter, and you can see here that we've created a new table after successfully connecting to Postgres, and our sample data was only 7 records, so that happened pretty quickly. We can now go back to the query editor to see our results, and so we'll do a select statement for the table that we've just created and the new table name parameter when we executed from the command line. And so I'll run that, and you can see the original emails. I'll make that a little bit wider. And then the responses, you can see some of these. The mail server does not exist, different ways that the email addresses can be validated, and some additional data that you can also see. Geographic information: are these disposable? Is it generic? Is it an educational database? Is it a government org? and so forth, some different fields that will be indicated when it's processed. And we now have all the email enrichment data within a table that we can use any way that we want, as well as the validation data, so we can figure out some kind of business process to deal with those. Because if you send email addresses to invalid emails, that's how you end up on spam lists and a lot of other things that aren't so good. So now we have this data, we're ready to go. All of our data is in Postgres, and we can do with it whatever is necessary.